All right, welcome back to another episode of Two Plain Sports. Today, we're going to be previewing the Oklahoma Sooners versus South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina is going to be visiting Oklahoma this weekend for the Week 7 matchup, Week 8, something like that. Honestly, kind of lose track since we've been so frustrated with this offense. But before we get into everything, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what your predictions are for this upcoming weekend's game. What you think could hopefully improve, um, and then where Oklahoma could meet its downfall for yet another game this season. We obviously hope that's not the case, but let's get into it. Oklahoma opened up this weekend's game as 3-point favorites. From the moment we're recording this, they're still 3-point favorites. How? Your guess is as good as ours. I don't even know if we can score more than 3 points at this moment, but we're so fresh off this Texas loss. So, Brandon, you have been a little bit more positive than me about this team. Now, that doesn't mean you've been super positive, but more positive than me. What do you think this Oklahoma team can just somehow put together for the South Carolina game at home?
Well, I'll be bold and I'll say that we will score one touchdown this week, which that would be pretty damn cool to see. I think you can't guarantee it, but I'm gonna guarantee it. I'm gonna guarantee one touchdown from the offense on Saturday. That's my positive take of the week. It can't be worse, man. You got to find a way to score one touchdown. I think we can. South Carolina's got a very good defensive line though, and that's going to be worrisome. They've got a dude, Kyle Kernard, on their team with 7.5 sacks alone. Another guy, 3.5. I think as a team, they're around 18.5, 19, kind of right on pace with us right now, to be honest. And that's worrisome because our offensive line has not been playing well. But they're not as big, and I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be tough. Hopefully, we can get some guys back. We say that every week. It feels like. I don't know how that looks, or if we will, but it'd be nice to get Burks or just anybody back on that receiving core, help out a little bit. Obviously, I think coming off a 34-3 slashing or getting your ass kicked at Texas, that's got to be a shitty week for them as well. So hopefully they come out a little bit juiced up and trying to get that taste out of their mouth. South Carolina is a weird team, and I think that's the only reason that we're favored by 3. You really can't figure them out. They opened the season against Old Dominion, a game which they won, but they won by 4 points. Only scored 2 touchdowns on offense, and both those touchdowns came because Old Dominion turned the ball over at their own 5 or 10 both times, and South Carolina was able to punch it in. But then they go hammer Kentucky, and they play a very close game with LSU. They hammer Akron, of course. Then Ole Miss comes into South Carolina and beats the shit out of them. And then last week they play Alabama and give Bama everything they want. And I don't know if that's more of an indictment on Alabama, maybe being not the Alabama of old that we're used to. Or, yes, I think the South Carolina team, I really can't figure out. Offensively, I don't think they're anything special. Lenore Sellers is the quarterback. Got about 790 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He is a dual threat guy. He's got about 200 yards on the ground with 2 touchdowns. Raheem Sanders is their leading running back. I think he's at 491 or 391. He's not bad, but there's offensively there's nothing special. I think it has all the makings for a low scoring kind of contest where just whoever makes the least amount of mistakes can win this game.
Yeah. No, I'm going to start with this. I'll give Latrell a big shout out because I think he's done something that no one in their imagination could have ever thought. He's actually kind of killed any hope that Oklahoma fans have for this offense. For an offense that has been good since way before him, and hopefully, as soon as he's gone, it's gotten to the point where it does feel like you're looking at a red Iowa, where you're like, man, you hope this defense can just score something, or the special teams unit can put something together, where it's just an extremely short field. Now, no matter what happens on offense, there's at least 3 coming out of it. You never know. Now, what you said kind of helps the situation for Oklahoma because Lenore Sellers is a threat on his feet, but in the air, he's thrown 4 touchdowns, but he's also thrown 4 picks, so he is mistake prone. So this defense needs to step up, especially the corners. It's easy to say like let him beat you with his arm, but with how inconsistent the corner play has been, you don't necessarily probably want to put yourself in a position where he is throwing, in one-on-one coverage because these corners just realistically haven't proven they can um, consistently win one-on-one in one-on-one coverage. Sure, they might be able to get a couple stops here and there, but something's gotta click this week because the defense is really gonna be the if Oklahoma can pull this out, and I truly think they can. I'm still not obviously we're Sooner fans. We're gonna try to be as optimistic as possible, no matter how hard it is right now. I do think that Oklahoma can pull out a win because of how inconsistent this South Carolina team has been. Now Shane Beamer is having a homecoming of sorts, right? Coming back to Norman for the first time since he's taken the South Carolina job. So he isn't unfamiliar with the palace or the fan base. He may have an idea of how to prepare the players, um, but the defensive line, this for Oklahoma's sake, needs to be the best possible performance by this offensive line unit because the South Carolina defensive line is very good. And it's like Brandon said, 2 guys, Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart. Dylan Stewart is their true freshman. He was a 5-star in last year's recruiting class, and he has proven to be very effective. For those people that don't know who Dylan Stewart is, I'm sure that if you watch SportsCenter or watched College Game Day or any sort of pregame show, he is the guy that emptied a clip on Jackson Dart not that long ago. So
Losing by 24, by the
losing
way.
by 24, he still had
Late
the
in the
passion
fourth
and the
quarter, he
emotion.
still hit that shit.
He did.
That you chalk that one up in the stupid ass celebrations, along with Anthony Hills planting the flag on a guy who hasn't played football at Oklahoma in almost a decade. But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, yeah, it's fine. That's fair. Yeah, the situation did not lend to that kind of celebration, but he did empty the clip on Jackson Dart. I think he did another celebration similar to it after the fact when they are still down big. So someone that's going to bring intensity. Kyle Kernard though is going to be the guy that you've got to look out for. Someone that's I think right now is at 7.5 total sacks. The dude is gonna fly around, and if you give him easy one-on-one situations, if it's him versus Tarquin, boy, we're in trouble. I think Jake Taylor might be the one that has the best chance against them, but still in one-on-one, it's not easy to block a guy that's been that effective, especially being effective in the situations he's been in. Alabama might not be the Alabama that we're used to seeing with Nick Saban. Their offensive line is still pretty decent, definitely better than what Oklahoma's put out there so far this year. And he had a good game against them, so hopefully we see a lot of chip blocks there, double teaming him, and just keeping him confused so that he doesn't just get to blast through whoever's in front of him. Um, on the offensive side of the ball, if you can keep that defensive line guessing as to what's coming, you may find some opportunities there. Uh, Either hopefully they can establish something with the run. I think Taylor Tatum made a dumb mistake last week when he was carrying the ball, but he was somewhat effective. He did make some plays. He's made plays throughout the season when he gets his opportunities. I still think he's your best bet at the running back position to make plays. That's just one of those things where this year you got to live with whatever Taylor Tatum mistakes come up because those are true freshman mistakes. He's not fully prepared for that kind of contact potentially or whatever the case is. It sucks. People are going to be like, you can't put up with that mistake regardless of him being a freshman or a senior. But that's what you get whenever you play true freshmen. You're going to make dumbass mistakes, and you just have to hope that in year 2, those go away. Or as the season progresses, when they get more snaps, those start being less and less repetitive. or just completely eliminated, right? But you don't know because he still hasn't gotten that lead back role for this team, even though he's been the most effective running back. For wide receivers, I don't know what to tell you. If we can throw the ball down the field, maybe they'll start looking good. I think it's just been extremely inconsistent because Mike Hawkins comes in the Tennessee game, and Jaquez Petaway looks explosive. He's making plays. J.J. Hester makes a big play against Auburn. Um, but then you have your gigantic stretches of we don't even really attempt to throw down the field. I know Brandon's one of his biggest things throughout the last couple of weeks is like have the quarterback roll out and do more rolling out in the pocket, move the pocket for him so that there's a little bit more time to throw. They did do that in the Texas game, and they couldn't scheme anything open. So
Yeah.
maybe this passing defense for South Carolina is gonna give something up, but you really like something's gotta give here. At this point, I think it's fair to say, and Brandon's probably been the most realistic about this. Latrell and Finley aren't going anywhere for the rest of this season, more than likely.
Yeah. That's
Put
that.
something good together.
That's the unfortunate situation, and I get it. Again, they've been hindered severely with having 5 receivers out. That sucks. The offensive line is banged up. That sucks. But um, that excuse only works for so long. At this point, we know what we have. You have to be able to fucking look like an offense, and we have not been able to do that for whatever. There's a bajillion reasons, but whenever the offense looks this badly, you have to look at the guys calling the plays, and those are the two who are doing it right now. And this is a very winnable football game for Oklahoma because, with the exception of that defensive line, I think the South Carolina defense is it's very beatable. There's nobody that really is super intimidating in their secondary or their linebacking core. But none of that's going to matter if Hawkins is constantly under duress or running for his life as soon as the ball is snapped, and the receivers aren't running any sort of real routes. If we're throwing the ball 5 yards every single snap again, it's not going to matter. We can make any defense look like the best in the country with how the offense has played so far this season. I don't know what it is, lack of preparation, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I mean, it is a winnable game. You have to find a way to. If you find a way to block, you'll have some chances. But I mean, you're talking about the Texas game where Texas didn't have to worry about shit. It was 20 run plays for Michael Hawkins. I think he had 27 yards because it was all just running up the middle or whatever. They tried a couple of those where Hawkins was going one way, then handed off the other way and try to catch him off guard. That didn't work very well. I think they had some success in the outside run game, but I think they took one shot on a deep pass in the first quarter to Hester. Coming off the Bowman pick, they did take a shot, just out of reach. Actually, a decent looking play, but that was it for the rest of the game. You can't beat anybody in college football doing that, and that's just it's crazy. And one play, in to defend Seth Luttrell a little bit. This is not a play Seth Luttrell made, but I think it's second quarter. We're down 4. Gavin Sawchuk is wide open, screaming open, and Hawkins doesn't even look his way. And I think that's because of the pressure he was under the whole game, or just him locking into his first read and not really going anywhere else because he is a young quarterback. But it's a play where he gets the ball to Sawchuk quick, and he might score. He was that open down the sideline by himself, and it's just. Yeah, we've got to. I don't know. It's, as a whole, they're not as good on defense as Texas, and we were able to move the ball a couple times against Auburn, put together a couple drives. So I think that's something that'll give you a little bit of hope going into this game, as maybe you can get a couple touchdowns and kind of win it the same way you did against Auburn.
Yeah, and the other big hope is like, regardless of how bad this offense has been, I think as long as fans show up and get loud, and honestly, being realistic, I think it's fair to assume that it may not be a fully packed stadium, and it sucks to say that because of how frustrating week you're coming off of. It's not even the fact that you lost, it's just how you lost. But if the Oklahoma fans can rally around what we do have, this defense has that upside. I think that's something that the South Carolina team, part of their inconsistency is because sometimes the away or the home crowd can affect them. At South Carolina, it's hard to win because the crowd is behind them. And that's how it should be at Oklahoma this weekend. If the crowd can get behind this defense, it's going to make it very hard for that offense because it has been inconsistent. I think last week's performance, especially in the run defenses, was out of the ordinary for what we had seen for Oklahoma over the first 5 weeks. Yeah, at Auburn, it got exposed a little bit, but even so, they kept that in check for most of the game. Um, so I think there is still the Oklahoma defense can put something together to keep this extremely competitive throughout the game. It's how can the offense scheme something up, and I don't think many of us have hope. But who knows? Maybe Seth Luttrell decides to turn it on, or maybe someone gave him an Xbox through the last 6 games, and he's going to push coach suggestions. Whatever happens on the offensive side is going to happen, and we're going to need special teams to show up big time. We're going to need some big time plays from the defense. Hopefully those guys don't get frustrated or exhausted because that's kind of what they're going to have to play now. They're just going to be they have to expect to be on the field for 35 plus minutes at this point. Yeah, I don't see Oklahoma really ever winning the time of possession game in any of the games they have throughout the rest of the season. One thing that's going to be interesting to see too is how they use on the offensive side. They can't really run with Mike Hawkins anymore. Everyone knows that's kind of what he's going to default to. If the first read isn't there, he's going to try to take off. And Debo Williams, one of the linebackers for South Carolina, is a solid linebacker. He might not be an All-American type, but he is a good linebacker, and he's going to track him down. He's going to make it hard for Mike Hawkins to get anywhere around him. So you either have to really sell that it's going to be a run, maybe throw in a couple RPOs. This might be the week where you finally get to play with that again, Seth Luttrell. Or you have to start telling him, push the ball down the field. It does not matter if it's incomplete, because that's what it seems like is throwing him off their game. The one time they threw the ball down the field at Auburn, it was complete. And then they really didn't try before or after. They didn't have to after, but they did it. In the Texas game, they, like Brandon said, they threw it one time deep in the first quarter, and they never did it again. But it was just a missed pass. Give him another shot. Tell him, make your first read, your deep route. If it looks like he's going to be in one-on-one coverage, you have to trust that receiver to make the play. And if you don't trust that receiver, that kind of goes back to the receiver and the receiver's coach, not the quarterback. So there's a lot of things that Oklahoma has not shown they can do, but you have to get right. This has to be a get-right game for the rest of the season. You can't come in feeling defeated, as frustrated as fans are. This team can't come in feeling defeated and not put up some sort of a fight, because if that's the case, this is going to be a tough 2024 season.
Yeah, 100%. Realistically, going forward the rest of your way, this is, with the exception of Maine, this is your most winnable game. It's a game that the South Carolina offense doesn't really. I don't want to say impose any threats, because then we'll get exposed. But it's not. It's not the offense that Auburn has. It's not the offense that Texas has. It's not. They're probably comparable with Tulane, and we look good in that Tulane game. It's just we have to find a way to score 2 touchdowns. I think maybe I think 3 would be a blessing, but it's going to be it's a similar approach to the Auburn game, a game that we won. I think Lenore Sellers is a guy that we can force into making some bad decisions. I think we'll be able to hit home. We should be able to contain Raheem Sanders a little bit on the ground. We got to have a spy. For them defensively, I think Texas laid out the blueprint on how to stop Oklahoma's offense right now. Is they spied Hawkins the entire game, and it didn't work. It didn't work for him at all. Like I said, he had 20 attempts for like 28, 27 yards. So he was just from the point of snap in trouble, and anytime he tried to run it wasn't there. I would be shocked if South Carolina doesn't run a similar approach where they're going to have a bunch of people underneath. They're going to have a spy on at all times, and if we don't take any deep shots again, or any sort of just take a chance to move the ball. If we don't do anything offensively again, it's gonna be another long Saturday. But we'll see. It's a if we can get it going offensively even a little bit, this is a very winnable game.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look at their games, while they have a very good defensive line, and I truly do believe what I said earlier about their linebackers being to keep Hawkins in check, like Brandon just said. They've also, to Brandon's point, they haven't really been stellar in the passing game, defensively. In the 4 SEC games they've played so far, they have given up. The only time they gave up less than 100 yards to a quarterback was against Kentucky, and somehow they put up a hell of a fight against them. That was their SEC opener, and then against LSU they gave up. Let me double check here. 285 to Nussmeier. Against Ole Miss, they gave up 285 to Jackson Dart, and against Alabama, they gave up 209 to Jalen Milroe. So their pass game is vulnerable, or their pass defense is vulnerable. It just, can the Oklahoma offense take advantage of that? That's one thing we haven't seen yet, really, since the non-conference games, and that was with Jackson Arnold at the helm. That's unlikely to happen at this point. It's Mike Hawkins for more than likely the rest of the season, unless there's drastic coaching changes where the next play caller decides that Jackson's the best choice. But that seems like a foregone conclusion that Mike Hawkins will be the guy for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think so for sure. I don't really have much to add. Should be a fun game. I can see it being a low scoring competitive game in which I think the team who makes the least amount of mistakes can win. Well, we're going to say it all season now, just because of how the offenses looked. Is if the defense gives us chances like they did against Texas on the first series of the game for Texas, we get a pick and we're in plus territory. We've got to start capitalizing on shit like that, and we didn't do it against Texas. We didn't do it against Tennessee. We've take advantage of the opportunities that the defense present you, especially when you're not playing well on offense. And whoever makes the least amount of mistakes, I think, has a really good shot of winning this one.
Agreed. Now, we won't do score predictions in this video. We'll do that in our next one, but we will give X factors for each side of the ball. Brandon, you want to go first?
I mean, for offense, it's going to be the entire offensive front. I think, whoever lines up on Kyle Kennard, whether that's Jake Taylor, whether that's Tarquin. Yeah, I'm wishful thinking ahead. Yeah, whether it's Michael Tarquin, you have to find a way to limit their pass rush a little bit, which is it's a tall task because they are a very good front, especially when it comes to getting after the quarterback. So if Hawkins is running around for his life all game, we're going to be in trouble again, and hopefully that's not the case. Defensively, I'll kind of keep it the same way, and just our front. I think Lenore Sellers is a guy that he doesn't do anything super special in the passing game. He's a guy that I think we can contain because he is a guy that is going to try to scramble. Some of these blitz backers got to hit home, but a lot of that is with the D line doing their job up front and creating those holes for the guys that can get, so the linebackers or DBs can get through and hit them. Win the trenches.
For the offense, for me, I'm going to go with it's tough. Dequez Petaway. I'm going to be wishful thinking here. I think if you give that guy a shot, he showed that he can be your wide receiver one if you throw the ball down the field. It doesn't even have to be that far. Make it 8 yards, and he can create something in space. Give him space, and he will put this offense to at least look slightly below average.
That's the goal, man. That's what we're after. Slightly below average is the goal.
On defense, I'm going to go with the linebackers. they're all going to be very important because Lenore Sellers might not be the best passer, but he can beat teams with his legs. And if you let him take over in the run game, it's going to make it that much harder to defend Rocket Sanders. Rocket Sanders, and it can get ugly quick, and it's gonna be something that no one's gonna want to watch on the OU side. So the linebackers, if they can step up, create some turnovers, either in the pass game or in the run game, create a fumble, get a pick, whatever it is, they're gonna be what puts this game in a position where Oklahoma can win it. Uh, when the clock hits zeros. All right. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
Go Sooners.
All right. Well, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and hit the comment section. Let us know what you think about what could be this weekend. Um, Honestly, you're going to expect a lot of negatives, and that is okay because it was a little tough to get us to a positive place in this video. But there's definitely some hope in it, but it's all relying on the defense and how much intensity they can bring to this weekend's game. Also, go down in the description, follow us on all social media. Twitter is where we're the most active. If you guys are on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, make sure to hit us with a follow there. We try to tweet throughout the games. We'll tweet throughout the week about what we see to keep you guys in real time up to date. We appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you next time.